My name's Adele Onyango, and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to this episode of Legally Clueless. This is what's coming up.
I was not that young. Maybe I was like 12 or 14 when my dad told me that I'm not that pretty, I'm just ugly. And that stuck. And it stuck and it is stuck until today. I can't get it out of me. Someone told me, Mzungu sura mbaya. And I remembered what my dad told me. And that just stuck. So that is really making me feel like I'm so ugly. I even write poems about being ugly. I feel like my self-esteem is so low. But then you wouldn't know because I'm so lively. I'm two people in one person. My mother and I, we talk maybe once in a year or twice in a year or thrice. Okay, I yearn for a mother. I yearn, I really do yearn for a mother. Because I usually really have dark thought that I just want to share with a mother. Those days when you say, okay, I need my mother.
That is Rachel's story. It's pretty inspiring. It's coming up a little later in this episode. If you are an OG member, you know I have nothing but love for you. And if you're a newbie here, welcome to the family. Let me show you around. Sindio. Okay, so every Monday, this particular show goes out, which is a Legally Clueless podcast. On Wednesdays, we have the midweek teas. On Thursdays, we have two different shows under For Mannerless Women. So one episode goes out on our YouTube, one episode goes out on our podcast platforms. Fridays, we have a seasonal show called Ask a Therapist that's going to be starting its next season pretty soon. Another thing you need to know is that every Wednesday, you get a letter from me to help you on your healing journey. Sign up for our newsletter on legallycluelessafrica.com so you can get it every week. And if you are on Insta and TikTok, you can find us at Legally Clueless Africa. And last but not least, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube so you can plug into our brilliant shows over there and share them with the people who you know are going to benefit from that. Great. Welcome to the fam. Okay, I really hope you're doing great because it's that time of year where we are tired. I was going to say many words, but honestly, we're tired. I think for me, it's around June, July. So it's mid-year fatigue. And then I'm like, oh my God, we have so much more year left. And then I normally experience it again towards the end of September, October. Yeah, so I'm trying to pace myself. And I hope that you're doing exactly that. Okay, before we jump into the story, I need to ask you 3 questions. The first one is, okay, this is pretty deep, so sit down for this one. Have you been carrying hurt that your family doesn't even know exists? So there are certain things maybe family members have done to you or said to you in the past, maybe when you were a child, that really hurt you, and you've been carrying that with you. And the family or even that specific family member doesn't even know it exists. Question number 2. Have you ever silenced yourself because you're just, scared of being too much or too different? I feel like this one is just me. I'm about to write in caps, yes, to that question. And the third question is, what would it feel like to finally speak your truth in a space that holds you with kindness? That last question almost makes me emotional. I can feel, the warmth of tears coming up my throat. Because honestly, that's what therapy gave me at a time when I just didn't have that. If you've been listening to the podcast for a long time, you know that I've been seeing a therapist for years. And then a couple of years ago, I met my now therapist, who's not the therapist I started off with. My now therapist is called Faith. And it was at a time where there was just so much confusion and noise and pain and shame around me that, and I was dealing with dark thoughts because of all the pressure, and dealing with a crisis of self, not knowing who I am, and then so many traumas that I hadn't really dealt with came up to the surface all at once. And I was also adulting. Hey, I don't even know how I survived that season, but I always remember my therapy sessions used to be Thursdays. I always remember feeling like this was the only space where I felt seen when I would go in to see Faith. And I think part of me, with what we do here in terms of group therapy and our wellness talks, part of me wants that for you, because that was so transformative for me. And so I'm so happy to share my therapist, Faith, with you this month. She is a guest speaker at our wellness talk, right? And this month, it's all about reimagining our relationships with family and with close friends, right? So we're going to be unpacking setting boundaries with family without guilt, reclaiming your identity after being misunderstood, healing when there are no apologies, because that one is something, right? And also, there's some patterns we adopted maybe for survival in our childhood that we're confronting in adulthood. And so, like, how do we unlearn those patterns and still interact with our family? It's a very heavy topic. I feel like as Africans, we don't really go there. We don't really talk about it, even though this is one of those things and spaces that has intense impact on your wellness, your okayness in your mind, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and obviously physically, because we know all of those are connected. And so if you want to join us on this journey, please come for the wellness talk. Tickets are 1,000 shillings and it's virtual. So we're trying to make it such that every single member of this family can attend. It's on the 30th of August. For those of you who haven't met my therapist, you're going to be meeting my therapist, Faith, at that wellness talk. And it's from 10 a.m. East African time till about 1. You can grab your tickets right now. Just click the link in the show notes. And don't forget to share this with all the people who you know would benefit from this conversation and having an accredited counseling psychologist walk us through this. Boundary work, especially with family, like that's just one chapter of what we're going to talk about. But that part, I think, was pretty transformative on my wellness journey and so much more. Right. So I really hope to see you there. I'm definitely going to be there. So yeah, check the show notes for a link to the tickets and obviously more details. Let's get into 100 African stories. Now, this week's story will actually connect with a lot of the themes that we're going to be talking about on our wellness talk, right? Or at our wellness talk. You're going to meet Rachel. Her life has been shaped at its core by albinism. So she's going to take us from feeling seen and safe in a special school to like high school, which was like completely different, and just navigating her own relationship with her family. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
My name is Rachel Lubanga. I was born in Kakamega, Kenya, in Butere, a place called Muyundi. I am the 8th born in a family of 8, and I have albinism. So what is albinism? Albinism is a genetic condition. It comes from your parents. It's just that, like the lack of melanin. When you don't have melanin, melanin is the pigmentation. So that means my skin does not have that pigmentation. My skin is white, so I'm not black. And that is what albinism is. And it affects your skin. Your skin becomes white. It also affects your eyes, because without melanin, like, your eyes are not sensitive to light. And also I'm short-sighted due to albinism. But some people with albinism are not that short-sighted as I am. Being an 8th born, when I was born, it didn't come as a surprise because my mother had another son with albinism, but he died. And when I was being born, he had already died. So it wasn't that of a surprise. There were no crazy reactions, no nothing. It was just saved. And then I went to primary school. And actually, I went for a school for persons with visually impaired, who are visually impaired, because albinism affects your eyes. So we're actually categorized under persons with visual impairment. So the school I went to was for persons with visual impairment, and there were other kids with albinism, other kids who have sight issues. So there was no feeling like you're different, just life felt normal because I looked like most of the kids. Like the teachers had also been trained to like teachers, because when you have sight issues, it's different. When the teachers are writing on the blackboard, they have to like write bigger, and also most of the times like the notes are dictated. And that brings me to the issue of like parents with people with disability, parents with children with disability don't want to take their kids to special schools. I can say it's worth it because the teachers there are trained to handle such kids. You don't have to feel like you're straining. I actually didn't know that I have sight issues because I didn't even have glasses. I didn't need them. And then that was my primary school education wise. But academic wise, I had challenges because I have this bold personality. Like people call it kierere. So I'm this kierere. People like, yo, kierere. And then most teachers didn't like that about me. And people didn't like girls who are bold. So teachers used to point out at me for not doing anything. And that really made me feel like I was walking on eggshells or something. But I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that that will come to affect me until I became older. And also going to a primary school, the primary school was a boarding school because it was far from home. And you find that actually in Kenya we have like few schools who caters for persons with disabilities, or they are called special schools. Yeah, there are fewer, so you have to like go away from home to find a school like yours. So it was a boarding school, and when I tell people that I went to a boarding school, people think like we are rich. No, we're not rich. It was just that it was a school that could cater for me. But when I went to boarding school, it was far from home, and my family is not well off. So most of the time when schools closed, I used to remain in school. I would not come home. Like I just went there and I felt like I was forgotten there until like I went to it was a Catholic school called St. Oda. It's in Siaya, and the sisters there had to like find me a foster home. And in that foster home, it was mostly it was like a rich family. So most of the people who were there were older, so I didn't like interact with kids a lot. But on those like one in a year occasions that I was going home, I didn't feel like, I didn't know like even if someone like abused me, because I didn't feel different. I have not yet discovered that I'm different. So challenges that I went through, I come to remember them now, and I see that, oh, that was done because of this. So that will come in later. Primary was that easy. It was a special school, no judgment, no nothing. It was a free path. The only problem I had was my personality because I was bold. And then I came to high school. And high school, I didn't go to a special school. I went to a regular school. And it is because like it was a scholarship. I won a scholarship. So I went to a regular school. So this school, we were actually, how many were we? Persons with albinism were like 5. But when I joined in Form 1, we were like 2 of us in our whole cohort. And that is when I started feeling different. Because I joined school, and then the stares, like everyone was staring. You know, in primary, no one stares at you because there are other kids like that, like people are. So we took almost half the population in primary school. But in high school, we're like, I don't know, a 10th, a 20th, I don't know. I can't estimate, sorry. So that is when I started feeling different. People were staring at me a lot, and they were really like wanted to touch me a lot. Like they want to see how different I am. And you know, the good thing about high school is that when you join, like the first 2 weeks, you don't go to class. It's just orientation and getting to know each other. So that is when I started feeling a difference. And then we go to the classrooms, and then you realize that the teachers are not trained like your primary school teachers. They're not trained to handle like people with special needs like me. So they could write on the board and I couldn't see. And this brought me a lot of problems because when I could say that I didn't see, again, people don't like, in that era, people didn't like bold girls like me. So when I could stand up and say, I can't see the blackboard, or I could go to my class teacher and tell him or her, I can't see my blackboard. People really thought that I just wanted special attention, or I was just an attention seeker. So that really dragged me down. I went from being that bold girl to now. That is when I can say like things changed. I started like feeling like my personality was an issue. I started being an introvert. I started changing. Things just started feeling different because I was even summoned to some disciplinary committee for teaching the teachers how to teach. You know, the problem with my high school, you know, it's a scholarship, you like keep things low. You don't want to. So the other students who had albinism kept on saying that they can see. But when you observe them when they were reading their books, you could see that they put their books closer. But they're emphasizing that they can see because they don't want to get in trouble. But I was that bold girl who went and actually enforced some policies there. which have enabled people at that school now to like have it better or easier than I had it. Yeah. So that was how high school started changing me. That is how I started feeling different. And that is when I started having like mental health issues, because then I became so self-conscious. Now I knew I was different. I became like, I was alerted. You know what? You are different. I remember I was doing it for in high schools that are not regular schools, the syllabus was actually modified during the 844 era. So that, because I can't see, there's some sciences, like let me say physics, that you see. I remember in a certain lab session, the physics teacher said, "You're not going for lunch until you read that Vania Calipers." And I couldn't read it, and I missed lunch because the calibrations are so tiny, tiny, tiny. I couldn't see anything. And I mostly relied on my classmates, like, "Can you read for me the board?" And sometimes you feel like you're disturbing someone. So again, if you are a parent with someone's disability, just take them to a special school. So in that disciplinary committee, actually before we reached to the disciplinary committee, we had an anonymous system in our school where like you go say some issue. So someone said something about me that I did, and I knew I didn't do it, and I really argued that I didn't do that thing. Okay, so when we reached to the disciplinary committee for that action, that action was never mentioned because I had tried to defend myself out of it. Was never mentioned. So what was mentioned was that I'm trying to seek attention in that school, and where that came from is our primary school had a blackboard, but our high school had a whiteboard. And you see the whiteboard, you get to use different marker pens with different colors. So sometimes the teacher could use green. I'm like, "Excuse me, sir, excuse me, miss, I can't really see with a green pen." So they have to go back, get a black pen to come, and so maybe that felt like a nuisance. And also like you see on whiteboards, teachers like can project what they're maybe they can project their screen, and you see what they're presenting. And I was in a school where they really liked natural light, so the windows could be left open, and when the windows are left open, you can't see anything on the whiteboard. Like for me, I couldn't see anything. And also the things that they were sharing on screen, if they were in smaller fonts, I could just like, "Can you please increase the font?" And I've learned that I came to learn this later, that when someone increases the font of their presentation, it doesn't look as neat as it had looked with that previous font that they had said it. So just speaking up for me and saying that, it was what was mentioned in that disciplinary committee, that I want special attention. I want to teach teachers how to kid, and actually got a suspension. After that, I got a suspension, and that is actually, I think that my mental health turned when I joined in Form 1 and I started feeling different. But that is when things went so bad. Like, I was really affected because, again, let me take you back to my primary school. When you grow up and you're far from your parents, there's no connection. You don't build a connection with your parents, because I went to primary when I was like 4 years old. So I don't know my mother. She doesn't know me. Yes, I know her name is Selena. I know my dad's name is Jackson. But that's on a deeper level. They don't know me. I don't know them. And the only thing they know is that I've had a soft life because I went to boarding school, and then I went to boarding school. I got a scholarship, and now I'm in campus. That's the only thing they know about me. But on a deeper level, so when she was called to defend me in that disciplinary committee, she didn't. She didn't defend me. And that is when I started to feel like, oh, so what do I mean to this family? And that is when I started to feel like, okay, maybe I should just die. That is when I started thinking a lot, a lot, a lot. But then that time that I was in suspension, I watched a lot of movies like 5 Feet Apart. I watched the saddest movies like 13 Reasons Why. But then I came to learn about mental health, and I developed an interest in psychology. So in my free time, I study psychology. So my high school went like that. So I was saying, in high school, in other regular schools, they usually like have a modified syllabus. So when I was doing it for 5 years, I suggested to my high school that if I can go to a special school, but then that didn't happen. They changed the curriculum, and they didn't teach 844. They changed to IB. So that is when we did IB, and now I'm in campus. Okay, in my first years of high school, I was really active, but what was I doing? I was doing like different clubs. I was even a scout. But then I remember we went to this camp, and someone came out of nowhere and was like, "Hey, can I take your picture?" And I said no. And the people who I had went with to that camp told me that I was rude. So that is when, I'm rude because you can't tell that person no, but them, they don't think the way I do. So after such things happening, I started withdrawing from clubs, and also after that suspension and everything, I started withdrawing from people. So I didn't participate in those funkies and everything. I started reading books, and I read mostly like the saddest books. Those were my type. I just withdrew from people and I didn't participate in that much. But when people came to school, they would just stare, someone would want to touch you. And I really found that very annoying. I don't like being stared at for that long. But most people do. Actually, life out here, people stare at you like, hey, okay. But there were a lot of things we participated. It's just that I withdrew, especially after that anonymous message that was sent to the school. I just withdrew from people because I couldn't trust anyone. They didn't say who that person was. They protected the person until now. Though I have rumors of who that person is. I wanted revenge. But the way I say things, life is revenging on her already. So I'm not doing anything to her. When I joined in high school and realized that I am of a minority, I started becoming an activist somehow. I spoke for women. I even called myself a feminist. I spoke for us people with personal disability. I even got a student council position to represent the students with special needs. I really influenced policies like sunscreen. As a person with albinism, and you don't have melanin in the sun. The sun will burn you. You'll have sunburn, so you need sunscreen. And I really put that forward that we need sunscreen and everything. So that person wrote to the school counselor that I had called them a prostitute. And I, being a feminist, how would I call you a prostitute? How? Because I knew I will never call, of all the things I could call someone, especially I don't like abusing women. I used to be a very toxic feminist where I supported like women's rights and women's wrongs. I could never just hey, do you know you're a prostitute? Like that does not even make sense. So when I really try to defend myself out of that, though I don't know how to defend myself, I just, if I see you're not like understanding that I'm not lying, I can't go further than that. So it was brought to the disciplinary committee. That wasn't said. What was said? Oh, special attention seeker. You want special attention, you want to teach teachers. But also, like in my family, they don't really understand that I have sight issues. They're like, you are seeing, especially if I spot something. Let's say you're sitting somewhere, then I spot someone passing on. They're like, you see? So usually pretend that you're not seeing or you can't see, but how did you see that person? So they don't really get it that I have like sight issues. So after high school, I came to campus, and high school taught me, I reduced on being a feminist. I just went down, I just went low, or being an advocate for persons with albinism. So I just went low, low, low. And in campus, if I couldn't see, I didn't like tell the teacher. The good thing in campus is you have your phone, so you just take a picture and you see it for yourself, or you follow along with my camera. So I don't really get to tell, oh, excuse me, can't see, excuse me. I don't really get to say that because it landed me in trouble, and I'm not ready to go for university disciplinary committee again. I'm not doing that again. So in campus, I just survive. For my undergraduate, I look for a school that understands that there are people with disabilities and they're more integrated. Okay, in high school, there's this teacher, my maths teacher, but she came in later. Oh, before that, there was this teacher who used to like get interested in matters to do with people with disability. And that is the teacher that helped me to even, oh, I forgot to mention, in high school, I one day like held a meeting with the teachers, and I like did a presentation on albinism, what it is and why we can't see. I also did write an article in a magazine, and those two events were, I got there through some teachers. There are some teachers who knew that, yeah, this is a real thing she can't see. There are some teachers who didn't see me as someone who is seeking special attention. They just saw me as someone who's trying to be treated equally, or who wants to have the same chance at life the way the other students are having the same chance. And after my suspension, my maths teacher really came through. Her name is Ruth Okapi. She came through and she really held my hand even after the suspension. Because if she didn't held my hand, I would have like gone down, down, down. Because I used to just sleep in class. I couldn't read because I didn't want people. And in class, you have people. So I could just sleep. And then at night, when people were sleeping, so I could just wake up and read. So I switched like during daytime, I could just sleep. And then at night, I could just read like in solitude. But she really talked to me. We talked a lot. And anytime felt like I need to talk about something, she really talked to me. But also another in our high school, I would describe my high school as there's this Billie Eilish's new album called Hit Me Hard and Soft. That is how I'll describe my high school. Like it hits you hard, but then and softly in a way that you like. So I had a mentor from NIC Bank. Her name was Grace. She also had albinism, and we used to talk about these eye challenges. She was a mentor. We are still in touch, but with my maths teacher, she relocated to Netherlands, and we are not that in touch as we used to be. Okay, so my home is in Kakamega, and I studied in Thika. Please don't look up my high school. I don't. Okay, I started in Thika. So I didn't used to go home because the high school holidays are like 2 weeks, 1 week. So I stayed with my sister, and she was the first family member that I became close to. Actually, now that I study psychology, because I see myself being affected by that. Because there are some days that I just need to talk to my mother. But then it's like I don't have a mother to talk to. I just can't call my mother and tell her I'm going through this or something is happening to me. I can't. I find it hard. And also, now that I have an interest in psychology, I like to study psychology a lot. And I discovered about the mother wounds and the father wounds. I've read more about the father wounds than the mother wounds. And I've read that the father wounds actually like impact how you see yourself, like your self-esteem. And that I realized it when after the high school dramas, my self-esteem went so low. And actually remember the things I remember from my childhood are very crazy things. I was not that young, not very young, like 4, 5. Maybe I was like 12 or 14 when my dad told me that like I'm not like that pretty, like I'm just ugly. And that's stuck. And it's stuck and it is stuck until today. I can't get it out of me. And you see, outside here when you're just walking, people make comments. Like you're just walking, minding your business, and someone just makes a comment and about you that you just wonder. There's this time when I had just joined campus, I was in first year, and someone told me, Mzungu sura mbaya. And I remembered what my dad told me. And that just stuck. So that is really making me feel like I'm so ugly. I even write poems about being ugly. Like I write, but I don't post them anyway. I just write them in my diary. I feel like my self-esteem is so low. But then you wouldn't know because I'm so lively. Like I'm two people in one person. I'm so lively. There's this side of me, especially during the day. I'm so lively. I'm so loud. I'm so noisy and everything. But then at night, I just wonder, so what was that for? Like, I don't want to, I don't have, sometimes I don't have the energy, but I just have to show up with that. So people just make weird comments about you and it throws you back to you, how my dad treated me. Now I can't talk to my mother about it. I can't talk to any of my sisters. My sisters don't really know so much about mental health. Yeah, they do. So even if I talked to them, like, oh, they won't like take it as a big thing. But that really has impacted me like really badly. Actually, I know I have said that if you have a special kid, take them to a special school. But I don't support like parents taking their kids to boarding schools because then the distance between you and the kid grows, and the kid just suffers like through life alone. And then you find out that your kid has just done something, and you wonder why they didn't say, but you don't have that relationship amongst you. So we are so far. Like my mother and I, we talk like maybe once in a year or twice in a year or thrice. It's countable. And my dad and I never talk at all, like on the phone. But it's because he doesn't have a phone. You know, he was born like earlier. He's not really interested in phone. But even that of when you call my mother in those once in a year time and he just can't ask why his dad, can I talk to him? Okay, I yearn for a mother. I yearn, like I really do yearn for a mother. Like sometimes I like, could I be adapted to maybe someone that they would care to listen, because I usually really have like dark thought that I just want to share with a mother. Those days when you say, okay, I need my mother. I yearn for for a mother, but my mother, the relationship, you know, we had a chance to mend our relationship during coronavirus because the lockdown found me in Kakamega. And that was the longest time I've ever stayed at home ever since I was 4 years, because I stayed at home for like 9 months. Yeah, it was 9 months. And that was the time when we had the chance to mend our relationship. But that is the time that our relationship got even worse, because the scholarship like used to fund us due to that time, and she didn't didn't use that money to purchase some basic items for me, some things like maybe some sanitary towels. She didn't use that money to purchase it for me. And then I asked her if they were sending her the money. She said no, and I had to keep on telling the school, no, she has not received the money. And she actually did receive the money. So I came out to the school as someone who is a liar. And I even had to contact the foster home that I used to be sent to when I was in primary school and explain my situation. And the man just sent me some fare, and I ran away from home like at 5 a.m. and went and stayed with him. So the 9 months I didn't spend at home. Okay, that foster home, I don't really understand the structure of that family, because when the sisters took me to that foster home, the only person they contacted was the man of the house. And the man of the house, he said he has a wife who is in UK, but I've never really seen his wife. And when I was there, I was not interacting with kids. I just interacted with like house helps. But at least it gave me a place to stay. I felt like when the school closed, I felt like okay, I have also gone home instead of just staying in school. So I didn't like interact with the kids there. I was interacting with like older people, and that was where I was staying. I spent my times reading these nursery rhymes, and just it was there that I was taught how to ride a bicycle by some of the Shamba boys that used to be there taught me how to ride a bicycle there. And some of my memories I have there, but some I don't. I don't remember. But I didn't like there was no mother figure, because the mother figure that was there was the house managers. And the house managers, they don't really, they have work to do. They wake up, they go to do work, they come back in the evening, they're tired, no stories, no nothing, you just sleep. And that was the routine. So I've never really had like this mother figure who I'm looking up to. Yeah. So I actually usually make some jokes that I actually raise myself, because then when I have something that I need to talk to my mother for advice, I just go on TikTok, and someone who has gone through same experience tells like what is happening. Like the other day, I usually feel like I'm just guilty for no reason, like I'm just guilty. And then I go to TikTok and find this TikTok that says, can someone please explain why I'm chronically guilty? And people are just sharing out, yeah, I always feel like people think I'm lying even if I'm not. And some people say it's OCD, but I don't want to self-diagnose myself, and I'm scared of those having to have those news on me. I'm not phobic. I'm not mental health phobic, but I just don't want to diagnose myself with mental health illnesses. I can't afford therapy for now, and I think maybe I'll try. But I journal a lot. I journal a lot, and I listen to a lot of music, and I listen to podcasts. But I stopped because it became an obsession. I actually got obsessed with podcasts. But I still listen to music. I still write. I still write poems, but I don't post them anywhere. Okay, in high school, the five of us used to gather and share our issues. But after that, like people went separate ways, were in different universities. We don't gather for now. We don't gather. I don't know if we'll ever gather. We have like older people who are older, like people who are for like when I joined in Form 1, they were in Form 2, Form 3. So they're the ones to lead us to if we were ever going to reunite and talk about such issues. But for now, there's not really a community that I am part of. I don't know if there are any out there. Maybe they are, but none that I am part of. There are some mates that I've heard for tell me, or maybe you pass somewhere and someone just makes those comments again. Kenyans, leave us to just walk alone on the road. Like you're just walking, minding your business. You pass through someone, they just say, these people don't die. They just disappear. Or when you marry someone like this, you'll become like automatically rich. Or do you know that when you sleep with someone with albinism, like if you have HIV, it gets cured. And those are the myths that I've heard people make comments about, and they scare me. Like they scare me, especially relationships, because you don't know if this someone wants you, or maybe they have HIV that they believe they are going to cure, or maybe they think that having you will make them rich. Those are myths. They are not true. Like they're not factual. So the problem with me is I don't know if some things happen to me because of my childhood dramas and traumas, or because I have albinism. The relationships I've had, I actually have not had any relationships until like this year. And this year, look, okay, like someone, like you don't know, you really, you like someone, everything is going okay, and then you remember the myths. Like, wait, what if this person is here to use me in one way or another? And then you start you just withdraw from such relationships. And the worst thing I did, and it's a good thing, but the worst thing I did about the worst thing I did about me, or the worst thing I did to me, was learning detachment. Because then I just block you and detach and just move away. Because I don't know what you are here for. And then the problem with, I can't read your mind. I can't know even if you tell me you love me, I can't read your mind. I can't know if you're telling me the truth or you're lying. So that works for me. But then I've also seen that the relationships I tend to like find, at the end of the day, everyone needs love. And you don't have a family that can love you the way you feel like you need to love. You sometimes end up like being in those relationships. And also with having that fatherly wounds, and then those impacting my self-esteem, I feel like I really like settle for less. I really like settle for less. Yes, I am with a person. I'm not saying the person I am with is less. I'm sorry if you get to hear this, but I feel like I really do settle for less because I believe that I don't like deserve more. I don't deserve like a man who will treat me the way I want to be treated, who will get me flowers or who will take me out. So you just settle for that you get, because sometimes you feel like maybe that is the only thing that is the closest thing you'll ever find to love, especially when your dad tells you that you're not pretty, and also a stranger on the road tells you that you're not pretty. It just takes, and it affects my relationship. Because even if like someone wants like me, but this person is of a higher level, or someone like actually matches my standards, I feel like, hey, they're just here to use me. Like, I don't feel like I can be loved by someone who is of the standards that I really look for in a man. But then some days I know, like, I don't, just like I said, I am two people in one person. Some days I really like, I'm aware I deserve that much. Like, I deserve that. I deserve to be loved in that way. And I really want to get that person who is better than me, or who will challenge me. But some days are like, I just settle with this lesson. But I need to work on that. I want the Kenyan society to understand that we are not Europeans. We are Africans. Because you find that I go buy something and they're like, Muzungu. Like a white person, Muzungu. Like, so that the moment someone refers to me as Muzungu, I know they are going to overprice me. So find that a cloth that is being sold at 100 bob, you get to be sold for that same item for 300 shillings. And it's not that you are rich just because you are white. And also these mean comments like people make, like people I just want people to be kind. Because like actually when that guy told me that Mzungu Surambaya, I used to walk like with my head down. Like I used to just walk with my head down. But there are some days that I just get out of that, and then I'm out of that for like a long period. But then other days it comes back and I'm back to lowering my head when I walk, and it makes me like really self-conscious. Because then when I'm at somewhere, I observe everything. Like I see everything. I see like how you treat me. I'll observe that, and I know when to withdraw. Like I'll say like, oh, maybe they're doing this because I have albinism, or maybe because I'm not pretty. And that means like social rejection. You feel like you're socially rejected, and sometimes you don't want to show up for events. And actually I was supposed to record this last week. I didn't come because of that. I was like, why am I going? There was no trip, there was no hike I was going to. But say, let me just come. I know you never know. Let me just come. Another change I would like to make is like these people who, like, you see, I can't see. So I go to a matatu and I can't see the number that I'm supposed to pay with the bus fare. And like the conductors don't want to read it for you because they think you are pretending. Again, takes me back to high school. People, when you ask for help, people think like you're seeking special attention. Or you go to an M-Pesa and the agent number is uko ndani, and you can't say like unaweza nisomea, like kwani huoni? So that has made me to like just I even like these mama bogas, their numbers are inside there, and you ask, you're not seeing. So people think when not seeing does not necessarily mean that you're blind. Some people who can see, like I can see you, but I can't see numbers that are at the back of that. Even with glasses, actually, albinism cannot. The sight of people with albinism who have sight issues cannot be corrected by glasses. Glasses just help you like be better, but it's not as perfect as sight should be. My last words will be, actually, I would like to tell parents, if you have a kid with special needs, take them to a school with special needs. It will save them a lot of mental health struggles. Also, be kind to people, because these comments like you just make, not only for person with albinism or even like for person with disabilities. I also think that referring to someone by their disability, if you say I have albinism, that is not an insult. But going out here calling people albino or kiwete, those words are not good. Like, just keep that for yourself.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. What an absolutely powerful story. You know, I feel like there are a few things that Rachel's story left me, thinking about. Just listening to her thriving in primary school and then the absolute opposite happening in high school. Dude, safe spaces are necessary. It's like it's not a luxury. They are necessary. Like they can mean the difference between you thriving and you just surviving. That was just the first thing. I also felt so intrigued by her boldness and like speaking up for changes and like influencing policy change in school at such a young age, and how it's not something that is celebrated. Doing that can sometimes punish you, which we saw her go through. Even just like advocating for herself with teachers got the teachers feeling some type of way, which is just so heartbreaking, honestly. And her final words about just, man, just be kind. Imagine the way we look at and speak to and treat each other can have the ability to either like heal someone or make them feel even worse. I'd love to hear what you connected with though, so drop it in the comments wherever you're listening to this on. And thank you so much for listening to this episode to the very end. Always remember that I appreciate you and I know that you have every single thing it takes to heal. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.